Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're going to start this afternoon with the Maryland School for the Deaf, and then we'll do Bowie State University, then we'll do Baltimore City Community College, and we'll finish up with the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. So David Propert is our analyst, and you don't look at all like David. Natalie. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. I am Natalie Andrade, and I'm here with the Department of Legislative Services to present the fiscal 27 allowance for the Maryland School for the Deaf. As you can see on page 1 of the analysis, the fiscal 27 allowance totals $57.8 million. This is an increase of $2.2 million or 3.9% compared to the fiscal 26 working appropriation. Turning to page 2, MSD receives a proposed fiscal 26 personnel deficiency of about $1.9 million. This deficiency covers costs related to lower than expected vacancy savings. On page 3 of the analysis, Exhibit 1 shows how the fiscal 27 budget is spent. Salaries and fringe benefits total $48.1 million, or about 83% of the total budget. Contractual services total $2.5 million and primarily support facility operations, accessibility services, and administrative functions. Contractual personnel expenses total approximately $2.3 million, and the remaining funding supports supplies, equipment, utilities, and other operating expenses. On page 4, Exhibit 2 discusses the proposed budget change. MSD's general fund allowance is formula-based and calculated using a per-pupil amount and an enrollment formula established in the statute. When combined with changes in other fund sources and the fiscal 26 personnel deficiency, the total budget increases by $2.2 million, bringing the fiscal 27 allowance to $57.8 million. On page 5, Exhibit 3 presents MSD's enrollment history and projections. Enrollment for formula funding uses a 4-year average to mitigate sharp increases and decreases in the student population. Total enrollment increased in fiscal 25, following a decline in fiscal 24. While enrollment for formula funding is projected to remain relatively stable in fiscal 27, MSD should comment on factors affecting recent enrollment fluctuations, including the increase in total enrollment in fiscal 25, following a decline in fiscal 24, and whether enrollment levels are expected to remain stable in future years. Beginning on page 6 and continuing on page 7, the key observations section discusses the student outcomes. Exhibit 4 shows graduation and post-secondary outcomes for students earning a high school diploma or a certificate of program completion. Reported outcomes vary year to year, reflecting small cohort sizes, changes in student decision-making, and limitations in post-secondary and adult service capacity. MSD has indicated that some reported outcomes reflect timing and reporting constraints rather than permanent placements. On pages 7 and 8, the analysis discusses the redesigned kindergarten readiness assessment, which was first used in the 25-26 school year. Statewide results for students with disabilities show that about 1/3 of students met kindergarten readiness expectations in early literacy and math, while about half were rated as beginning in those areas. MSD has not yet reported results for its own students due to timing of the data. So the agency should provide the results of the redesigned KRA for its students in the 25-26 school year and discuss how the assessment will be used to inform instruction and support. To conclude, on page 9, the Department of Legislative Services recommends concurring with the governor's allowance. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Okay, can we have John Serrano, the superintendent, come up to the table? Welcome.
Thank you. Well, hello and good afternoon, Chairperson Senator King and subcommittee members. My name is John A. Serrano, and I am Superintendent at the Maryland School for the Deaf. Next to me is Brian Halloran, MSD's new Chief Finance Officer, as well as our Operations Officer. And we are truly pleased to be here today. Last night we were a little bit concerned with the ability to get here because of snow, but it turned out to be not too bad, so happy to be here. So first of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to Natalie Andrade, the budget analyst, and to her team for their collaboration and effort in planning for the budget analysis, so thank you. Maryland School for the Deaf's core mission is to educate deaf and hard of hearing students in a language-accessible environment that maximizes their potential. MSD stands apart as a unique institution by offering a fully inclusive and accessible signing environment where students can thrive both academically and linguistically. Although MSD as an agency may be small relative to others, our commitment and purpose are significant. While we have already submitted our written testimony, I'd like to take this opportunity to emphasize some key points for your consideration. We commented that MSD enrollment fluctuates annually based on multiple factors. In accordance with statute, the MSD Board of Trustees establishes admissions criteria, and the school's admission office manages implementation, including family outreach, campus tours, inquiry response, and application processing throughout the year. Families enroll for varied reasons. This can include relocation from other states, to access specialized programming, and also transfers from Maryland public schools for those who are seeking a full signing educational environment at MSD. Although specific factors impacting enrollment trends are difficult to isolate, indicators suggest enrollment remains viable due to that sustained outreach efforts, as well as partnership with early intervention programs across surrounding school systems. For the 2025 to 2026 school year, 56 students have been admitted to date. We also have additional applications and campus tours currently in progress. As of January 30th, total enrollment stands at 492 students, which is the highest level since pre-pandemic years. As for the implementation of the new kindergarten readiness assessment, at the start of the 2025 to 26 school year, all enrolled kindergarten students at MSD participated. They completed the paper version of the KRA due to required accommodations, resulting in data entry delays. Currently, results are available only for the Frederick campus, and the Columbia campus results remain pending. In summary, for STAR Math, our students achieved 93% established skills, 7% beginning skills. And for early literacy, it was 86.7 established skills, 6.7 developing skills, and 6.7% beginning skills. So these results establish baseline skills, and they guide and inform differentiated instruction, early intervention services, and specialized instructional support, as well as a professional development for teachers and staff. And lastly, we cannot overstate the importance of including that $1.9 million deficiency appropriation in our budget. This funding will help restore resources that were previously reduced due to statewide budget cuts imposed last summer, which truly had a detrimental impact on school operations. The restored funding will be used to support salary and fringe shortfalls and to ensure that MSD can continue to provide a free and appropriate public education as mandated by law to our students. And finally, we deeply appreciate the state's ongoing commitment to supporting MSD's mission of providing academic and social opportunities that empower deaf and hard of hearing students across Maryland to achieve their full potential and contribute meaningfully to our communities. In conclusion, MSD concurs with the analysis and recommendations. Thank you for your consideration and your continued support of our mission. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have any issues, and I think your allowance is in the budget. So that's all I need to know. Thank you. Thanks
Wonderful,
for coming
thank you.
over. I know it was snowy and messy this morning, but it's something you have to do anyway.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Okay, next we'll do, lost my list. Here we go, Bowie State University.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Beginning on the first page, compared to the working fiscal 2026 budget, the fiscal 2027 allowance for Bowie State University decreases by 0.3% to $221.7 million. The allowance contains $14.5 million for Bowie's portion of HBCU settlement funding, which is a decrease of $1.8 million year over year due to a decline in the university's share of total state HBCU enrollment. Moving to Exhibit 1 on page 4, from fall 2024 to 2025, the number of applications increased by 28%. The yield rate, which is the percentage of accepted applicants who enrolled, was 18% in fall 2025, which ties fiscal 2023 for the lowest yield rate during the time period shown. For context, from fall 2019 to 2024, the yield rate was between 21 and 25%. The President should comment on what led to the year-over-year decline in the number of applications and acceptances in fall 2024 and how the university improved each of these metrics in fall 2025. Exhibit 2 on page 5 displays total enrollment and the change in enrollment by segment of student. Total undergraduate enrollment decreased by 6% in fall 2025 compared to fall 2024 and marks the 4th consecutive year of decline. The year-over-year decrease was driven by 233 less continuing students, going from 3,702 in fall 2024 to 3,469 in fall 2025. The university cited regional economic instability for the decline in total enrollment, and particularly for continuing students. The President should comment on factors contributing to an increase in enrollments from new applicants, but a decline in the number of first-time, full-time students during that same timeframe. Exhibit 3 on page 6 shows the number of students enrolled in online, regional, and off-campus locations. Online programs began to be offered in fall 2023. The regional locations include the universities at Shady Grove, the University System of Maryland at Hagerstown, the Eastern Shore Higher Education Center, and Laurel College Center. The off-campus location is Jessup Correctional Institution. Enrollment in these programs has accelerated significantly, with the number of students more than tripling in fall 2024 compared to fall 2023. The President should discuss the university's recent creation of online programs and how much of the enrollment growth in online, regional centers, or other off-campus locations is due to online students compared to the other locations. Continuing to Exhibit 4 on page 7, student persistence or retention provides a measure of student progress, as the higher the retention rate, the more likely that students will persist and graduate. The third-year retention rate for the 2023 cohort decreased to 52% and is the lowest third-year retention rate during the entire time period shown. The President should comment on the steps being taken to improve third-year retention rates. Turning to Exhibit 5 on page 8, graduation rates are another measure of student success. Since the 2013 cohort, the 6-year graduation rate has steadily declined, falling to a low of 40.7% with the 2017 cohort before increasing to 41.8% or 41.5% with the 2018 cohort. 4-year graduation rates have trended up and down throughout the period shown, but the 2020 cohort had a 4-year graduation rate of 15.2%, which is the lowest in the time period shown. The President should discuss efforts being taken to improve the 4- and 6-year graduation rates. Exhibit 6 on page 9 shows the 8-year graduation and transfer rate for several student segments in the 2015 to 16 cohort. Across all categories, non-Pell recipients were slightly more likely to graduate in 8 years compared to Pell recipients. Overall, at least 75% of all 3 segments either graduated or transferred within 8 years. Exhibit 7 on page 10 shows the estimated cost of attendance by income bracket and average net price for first-time, full-time students. The average net price was 36.3%, or about $9,200, less than the published cost of attendance in fiscal 2023. The price paid varies by income level, with lower incomes having a lower net price as a result of more financial aid. In fiscal 2023, the average net price increased by 7.3%, or $1,170 compared to fiscal 2022. And a major contributing factor to this is the decline of federal aid stemming from the pandemic. Bowie students received $18.7 million in financial aid from the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act in fiscal 2022, but only $3 million in fiscal 2023, a decrease of 84%. Exhibit 8 on page 11 shows that total institutional aid for students increased each year from fiscal 2019 through 2023. However, the university reported that the fiscal 2023 need-based aid figure, which is the light blue color in the exhibit, is inflated due to an error that coded private donations as aid from the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Bowie should work with the University System of Maryland to update its database with correct institutional aid figures for fiscal 2023. Exhibit 9 on page 12 shows that 5 years after graduation, graduates from the registered nursing and computer and information science programs had the highest median earnings. Computer and information science graduates had the highest median federal debt, while registered nursing graduates had the second lowest median federal debt. Sociology graduates had the lowest median salary 5 years after graduation and the fourth highest median debt. Moving to page 13, the fiscal 2027 budget includes a proposed efficiency appropriation totaling $27.6 million spread across USM institutions and Morgan State University, which replaces special funds with general funds due to a shortfall in the Higher Education Investment Fund, of which Bowie's share is about $817,000. The fiscal 2026 budget, as introduced, included a 5% or $111.1 million reduction to USM's state fund appropriation. Supplemental budget number 1 further reduced USM's appropriation by 2% or $44.4 million for a total reduction of $155.5 million. However, USM institutions also received about $80 million to support general salary increases, and $36.8 million of this was used to partially offset the reduction. To implement Bowie's state fund reduction of $3.8 million, the university eliminated 30 vacant faculty and staff positions, reduced facility renewal spending, and decreased funding for professional development. Exhibit 10 on page 14 displays unrestricted fund changes between the 2025 actual and 2026 working budget. Institutional support experienced the largest year-over-year change, decreasing by $9.3 million, or 25%, and this decline was driven by the aforementioned elimination of 30 vacant positions, and also the consolidation of contractual services. Sales of auxiliary enterprises increased by $6.5 million, or 23.5%, due to increased room and board fees and revenue from athletics and off-campus housing. Operation of maintenance and plant increased by $5.6 million, or 37%, and was driven by several replacement and renewal initiatives. Exhibit 11 on page 16 shows, after accounting for deficiencies and contingent reductions, total state support increases by about $88,000, or 0.1% in the fiscal 2027 allowance compared to the fiscal 2026 working appropriation. Despite the limited overall change in state support, there is a notable shift from general funds to special funds driven by the university's share of HBCU settlement funds in fiscal 2027 coming from the Cigarette Restitution Fund due to fund availability. In fiscal 2026, Bowie's share of settlement funds was entirely comprised of general funds. Language in the fiscal 2027 budget bill would reduce general funds by $6.8 million and appropriate special funds by the same amount contingent on the enactment of legislation to partially decouple from certain tax provisions related to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, as the decoupling is anticipated to generate additional higher education investment fund revenue, of which Bowie's share is about $201,000. As seen in the bottom line of Exhibit 11, total funds for the university decreased by about $669,000, or 0.3% year over year. Our last exhibit is Exhibit 12 on page 18, which displays the composition of Bowie's unrestricted revenue by source. State funds in red have consistently been 40 to 41% of the university's revenue from fiscal 2020 to the 2027 allowance. HBCU settlement funds have been between 7 and 11% since they began in fiscal 2023, and combining them with the state funds in red have led to higher combined shares of state support. The introduction of settlement funds also coincided with tuition and fees comprising a smaller share of revenue. Page 19 displays personnel data, and as of December 31st, 2025, the university had a vacancy rate of 14.2%. Lastly, the number of regular positions and contractual full-time equivalents remains level year over year. Page 20 contains the recommended action, which is to concur with the governor's allowance, and that concludes my presentation. You can take any questions.
Good job. I don't know how you keep it all straight and talk that fast. Aminta Bro.
Go ahead. Looks pretty good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. It's my pleasure to be before you today. Joining me to my right is our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Giolana Musu. And to my left is the Vice President for Administration and Finance, Mr. Manish Kumar. And we're pleased to be before you today. Before moving on to answer questions by the analysts, I would be remiss as a president if I didn't give you some highlights of what's happening at Bowie State University. But beforehand, I do want to express my support and our support for the governor's fiscal year 27 proposed budget for the University System of Maryland and Bowie State University. We're so very grateful for the support you have shown for higher education, and your support shows an appreciation for the critical role that higher education plays in fueling Maryland's economy and a recognition that we are worthy of the investment. You have my full testimony before you where I outline some of the many exciting accomplishments. I do want to thank the analyst, David Propert, for the analysis and also for taking time to come out to Bowie State University to see firsthand the excitement that we see and the excellence that we see each and every day. So thank you so very much for your analysis. Bowie State University recently concluded a year-long celebration of our 160th anniversary. As part of the celebration, we went back to where it all began in 1865, the corner of Calvert and Saratoga Streets in Baltimore. On October 10th, Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott joined us in the unveiling of a sign marking that location as Bowie State University Way. And there is much to celebrate as we move boldly forward, the name of our new strategic plan. Also, Bowie State University, just as a reminder, is ranked number 11 among the more than 100 HBCUs in the nation. The university last year earned the prestigious Carnegie Research Classification for a Research College and University designation in 2025, underscoring our university's commitment to research, innovation, and academic excellence. Forbes magazine ranked Bowie State University number 5 among the best HBCUs with online degree programs. And BSU once again received the designation as a military-friendly school, a designation we have held since 2019. And last year, we also received the designation as a military spouse-friendly university. Our Entrepreneurship Innovation Center is the first HBCU to receive the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers, GCEC 2024 Highly Commended Outstanding Emerging Entrepreneurship Center Award. The BSU EIC, our Entrepreneurship Innovation Center, successfully hosted the 5th annual HBCU Plus Entrepreneurship Conference, reaching over 900 registrants, 145 plus universities, including 55 HBCUs each year. BSU is strengthening the economic engine here in Maryland and in other states through our partnership with the Bowie Business Innovation Center with our 8A development initiative empowering HBCUs in the nation to help create small and support small businesses to secure grants and contracts. And we are also pleased to receive the support for the development of the 5 acres to enhance economic development with the support from the county to explore development of 94 acres adjacent to the campus. We believe that the future is bright for BSU, creating even more innovation to meet workforce and economic demands for the region. The achievements of our graduates are a powerful testament to the excellence of Bowie State University education. For example, our Tony Award winner and Bowie alum Miles Frost stars as the lead character in Shea Joey that just opened and is on its way to Broadway. Dr. Alicia Marshall has been named the 7th president of Community College of Philadelphia. And finally, in recognition of the extraordinary efforts and achievements of our faculty, staff, students, and alumni, BSU received a historic vote of confidence from philanthropist Mackenzie Scott. We are thankful to Mackenzie Scott for her transformative $50 million gift to BSU, the largest gift in our 161-year history. Combined with her previous $25 million contribution, her total investment in Bowie State University now totals an incredible $75 million. And as with the first gift, the majority of the funds will be put to grow the endowment to help address affordability for our students by providing more scholarships. So looking ahead, with our new strategic plan boldly forward, on July 1st, 2025, That's when it was launched. There is a link to the plan in your written testimony. This 3-year plan reaffirms our values and deepens our commitment to academic excellence, innovation, student success and well-being, and institutional effectiveness and resilience. Turning now to the requests from the analysts. Again, I have provided more detailed responses in my written testimony. The requests for comments generally relate to applications, enrollment, and retention. First, I've been asked to comment on the year-over-year decline in the number of applications and acceptances in fall 2024 and how we improved each of these for fall 2025. The apparent reduction in the number of fall 2024 applications and acceptances is not the result of fewer applications, but rather a data reporting error. The fall 2024 admission data extract was not updated to include the new first-time student category for new students with advanced standing. The data extraction was corrected for fall 2025. The corrected fall 2024 numbers are 6,631 for applications and 5,163 for admitted students. Next, I'm asked for comments on factors contributing to an increase in enrollments for new applicants, but a decline in the first-time full-time students during the same time frame. Over each of the past 3 years, Bowie State University has attracted, on average, 12,000 applications with more than 6,000 completed first-time freshman applications, 12,000.
Okay, confirm that for me. So there's 12,000 applications. How many students can you accept?
1,000.
Wow. Okay, that's good.
Thank you for your question.
It's sad for the
Yes.
students, but
The demand is very, very high. After the fall enrollment snapshot, the university did a deep dive into factors impacting new freshman enrollment and concluded that declining first-time full-time enrollment was impacted by a combination of increased affordability and competition. Affordability remains the #1 reason why and the obstacle to students enrolling and graduating in a timely fashion. Despite efforts to provide more financial support, many students and their families are hesitant to take out loans to bridge financial gaps due to negative messaging that has projected nationally regarding student debt, which has limited their ability to enroll or remain enrolled. Also, the reduction of approximately $1.4 million in educational assistance grants from MHEC over recent years has further compounded this issue, reducing the financial aid resources available to prospective and current students. Gap funding is essential to the student population at BSU, given the fact that less than 50% of our students receive Pell Grants, less than the national average of HBCUs. Most recently, in the fall 2025, we experienced the highest number of first-time student melt in August. This was largely due to other larger institutions with larger endowments, offering more scholarship dollars at the very end of the enrollment cycle process, making them more attractive options for prospective students who are sensitive to financial aid offers. These factors have significantly impacted our undergraduate population. And addressing these challenges requires a strategic, multifaceted approach focused on enhancing affordability, increasing financial aid resources, enhancing retention strategies, and improving the enrollment processes to better compete with other institutions earlier in the awarding of scholarships. In that process, to better compete with other institutions who were awarding scholarships earlier. To this point, Bowie State University has recently closed the largest fundraising campaign in our history. Scholarships and affordability remain the top priority for the additional private funds achieved from the campaign. Third, the third request relates to our recently created online programs and how much of the enrollment growth in online regional centers or other off-campus locations is due to online students compared to other locations.
can I ask you a question about that? Sure. Mind me stopping you? With the different schools that have been here in front of us and with UMBC, or the global campus, I've had a concern, and I just remember a few years ago we were really concerned about online courses and whether they were going to be secure and a good idea and that kind of thing. Well, now I'm worried about too many kids just relying on taking the online courses and not really wanting to attend the college campus itself. And I think that is just such an important part of the whole process of being on that college campus and being a part of all that. Do you see any of that? Or, I would just not like to see it just go, the kids are just completely relying on online courses.
Sure. As you can see from the number of applications, there's a huge demand for HBCUs and that experience, that nurturing,
Good.
Supportive environment. So we're not seeing a decrease. In fact, we have those large numbers. There's still a lot of interest. Students are looking for flexibility, however. Many of our students are working 2 and 3 jobs, and so they do want that flexibility to be able to balance the need to afford the college
I can
experience.
handle that. That's understandable.
Yeah, so we're not seeing the decrease, and we are increasing online options to provide more of those flexible options for our students. So for us, we're not seeing the decrease, and I believe that's largely due to the type of product that we have, the HBCU nurturing, inclusive environment that we have.
Right.
Thank you for your question. And so the third, Bowie State University revised the indicators in our Managing for Results report last cycle to align with our new Boldly Forward fiscal year 26-29 strategic plan. One of the indicators added was the number of students enrolled in an online program, regional center, or other off-campus locations. This key performance indicator is used to monitor our commitment to providing educational opportunities in locations and modalities that meet today's workforce needs. Currently, we offer courses and programs at the universities of Shady Grove, the University System of Maryland at Hagerstown, Laurel College Center, and Eastern Shore Higher Education Center. To put this into perspective, the number of students engaged in regional centers or online programs represents 10% of Bowie State University's total fall 2025 enrollment. 2 years ago, it was at 6%. And so the number of regional center or online students has grown from 388 in the fall of 2023 to 603 this past fall. In fall 2025, 351 of the 608 students, or 58%, were enrolled at regional centers. The next 2 comments relate to efforts to improve our third-year retention rates and our 4- and 6-year graduation rates. Credit momentum is the leading indicator of retention and persistence and the strongest predictor of 4- and 6-year completion rates. Efforts are underway to advise students to enroll in no less than 15 credits per semester, as indicators show that students earning 30 credits in year 1 are significantly more likely to be retained in year 2 and persist to graduation. As part of our ongoing efforts to support timely degree completion and improve the graduation process, pre-graduation clearance audits have been implemented by departments for students who have earned 90 credit hours by their junior year. The purpose of the audit is to proactively identify and resolve any academic issues that may delay graduation. And then finally, we were asked to work with USM to update our institutional aid figures for fiscal year 2023, and we are working with USM to resolve that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good job.
Thank you.
Any comments? Senator Bailey?
So thank you very much. I had one question,
Yes.
or I guess 2. Number 1, in your common application, do you use the Common App for students?
We do not use the common application.
Okay.
We have not had the need to use the common application again. We are seeing a huge demand, and there have been some downsides to us using the common application in terms of communication effectiveness.
So I thank you very much for that, because I wanted, that just makes your point. You know, that when you, because if universities that use the Common App can just hit a button and include that many other people. And by you not doing that, right, it really shows how many students are actually interested in your program.
Exactly.
Second thing that I just wanted to point out, I see and applaud all your work with the regional centers. Let you know that we have USMSM, Regional Center in Southern Maryland, I'm sure.
Yes.
They'd be very interested to start working.
We're in conversations with them. They have new leadership there, and the provost has been in conversations to explore options to deliver there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
They're also a part of USG too, just saying.
Just say that.
Okay, I have one last person here from Bowie State to speak. Michael Harrison, did you want to say anything?
No, I was just submitting the written testimony.
Okay,
Michael's with our team.
okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I just
Thank
don't
you,
want to
members of the
offend
committee.
anybody. Thank you. Okay, next we have Baltimore City Community College. Dave Propert is the budget analyst, and Dr. Deborah McCurdy, president, will be here. You can go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Beginning on page 1, compared to the fiscal 2026 working appropriation, the fiscal 2027 budget for Baltimore City Community College, or BCCC, decreases by $8.9 million, or 9.3%, to $86.7 million. This year-over-year decline is driven by a one-time $9 million PAYGO appropriation supported by the institution's fund balance in fiscal 2026. Moving to Exhibit 1 on page 5, total enrollment declined by 27.9%, or 1,371 students from fall 2019 to 2022, driven by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, from fall 2022 to fall 2024, enrollment grew by 23.7%, or 837 students. Then, in fall 2025, enrollment declined by 4.1%, or 179 students. In an effort to increase enrollment, the college reported that its recruitment zones were reorganized into 4 areas. The president should discuss the impacts of the reorganized recruitment efforts. Exhibit 2 on page 6 displays that from fall 2016 to 2019, at least 97% of tested entrants required remediation in math, and at least 85% required remediation in English/reading. Then there is a steep decline in fall 2020. BCCC reports this large decline was due to measuring remediation differently during virtual learning that occurred during the pandemic. Prior to online learning in fall 2020, the most common remediation measure was performed in person using the AccuPlacer placement test. Once online learning began in fall 2020, the college used a variety of methods to determine a fall entrance remediation status, including SAT and ACT test scores, high school transcripts, and alternative placement exams conducted online. As the AccuPlacer placement test resumed being the primary method to determine remediation needs in fall 2022, the percentage of students requiring remediation in both subjects increased. In fall 2023 and 2024, remediation rates remain lower than historical levels seen from fall 2016 to 2019. Exhibit 3 on page 7 displays the successful persister rates for college-ready students and developmental completers. Students who completed developmental courses have historically had higher persister rates than college-ready students at BCCC, but this changed with the 2018 cohort as college-ready students persisted at a higher rate. College-ready students also persisted at a higher rate in the 2019 cohort, but developmental completers eclipsed them by 4 percentage points in the 2020 cohort. Continuing to page 8, Exhibit 4 shows developmental completers and developmental non-completers in the 2020 cohort increased their persister rates compared to the 2019 cohort, while college-ready students in the 2020 cohort persisted at just 1 percentage point less. The aforementioned shift from conducting primarily in-person AccuPlacer placement tests in fall 2019 to new methods in fall 2020 explains the shift in proportions between each segment year over year. In fall 2019, only 5.3% of the cohort was college-ready, whereas 46.2% were deemed college-ready in the 2020 cohort. In fall 2019, 61.6% of the cohort were developmental completers, and only 33.5% were developmental completers in the 2020 cohort. Additionally, 33.1% of the 2019 cohort were developmental non-completers, but only 20.3% were developmental non-completers in the fall 2020 cohort. Considering much less of the 2020 cohort was proportionally placed into developmental courses due to the pandemic-era change in measurement, the percentage of college-ready persisters is notable because many more students were in that segment than usual. Exhibit 5 on page 9 shows the changes in unrestricted funds by program in the 2025 actual and fiscal 26 working appropriations. Notable changes include an increase of $4.8 million, or 28.1%, in instruction, which BCCC attributes to faculty increments, promotions, and cost of living adjustments, along with contracts and grants for instructional activity. Academic support increases by $2.1 million, or 37.7%, which the college attributes to reaccreditation processes for academic programs, attending conferences, program approval costs for MHEC, customized developmental education courses, and escalations built into existing contracts. The president should discuss the specific contract and grant activities that have increased in instruction, as well as which programs are in the reaccreditation process. Exhibit 6 on page 11 shows BCCC's funding formula as it was calculated in fiscal 2026 and in the 27 allowance. And the allowance does not include the contingent reduction, which will be discussed later. In fiscal 2026, a full-time equivalent student, or FTES, count of 2,040 was reported by the college and used to calculate the formula, but this was the incomplete FTES count because it did not include eligible non-credit students. The number of FTEs that should have been used was 3,047. Nonetheless, the hold harmless provision would have been triggered either way. In the allowance, as displayed in the final line, general funds increased by 1.9%, or about $902,000, which, again, does not account for the contingent reduction, which will be covered soon. Exhibit 7 on page 12 displays how much of the college's funding has been comprised of hold harmless funds since fiscal 2021. One thing to note is that the hold harmless level increased year to year several times due to statewide salary adjustments being budgeted directly within BCCC in some years, as opposed to being centrally budgeted in the Department of Budget Management. In fiscal 2021, the hold harmless portion was 6% of total funding, which grew to 32% in fiscal 2025. As FTES enrollment used in the calculation declined, the hold harmless portion became larger. FTES enrollment in fiscal 2025 grew by 16.1% year over year. In fiscal 2025, FTEs enrollment is what fiscal 2027 funding is based on, which brings BCCC out of hold harmless for the first time since fiscal 2014. On to page 13 and the contingent reduction in the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act. Under current law, BCCC's per FTES appropriation must be at least 68.5% of the FTES appropriation made to selected four-year institutions. The BRFA of 2026, as introduced, includes a provision to lower this rate by 1 percentage point to 67.5% beginning in fiscal 2027, which would reduce BCCC's appropriation by about $714,000 in fiscal 27, as shown in Exhibit 8. Fiscal 2028 and onward are forecasted based on several assumptions listed in the text. The total estimated decrease in funding for the period shown is $3.7 million due to the contingent formula change. Exhibit 9 on page 14 shows state support per FTES from fiscal 2021 to the fiscal 27 allowance, and the level in fiscal 27 if the provision in the BRFA is adopted. State support per FTES increased each year from fiscal 2021 to 25 as the FTES enrollment used in the formula calculation declined. Fiscal 2025 and 26 also display in orange the state funding per FTES previously reported based on the incomplete FTES counts. After peaking in fiscal 2025, state support per FTES decreased in consecutive years as enrollment increased. The BRFA provision would have state funding per FTES of $13,309, which is $518 less per FTES than current law. Exhibit 10 on page 15 displays the proposed budget. After accounting for the contingent reduction, general funds increased by about 0.4%, or $188,000. Excluding the one-time PAYGO funds in fiscal 2026, total funds increased by about $150,000, or 0.2% in the fiscal 2027 adjusted allowance. The president should discuss the source and uses of the $1 million in state special funds included in the restricted fund appropriation. Page 16 contains personnel data for the college, which had a 28.83% vacancy rate as of December 31st, 2025. The president should comment on the continued high vacancy rate, efforts to reduce vacant positions, and the effect that the vacancies are having on the college's ability to meet its goals. Exhibit 11 on page 18 shows that the number of applications for the Mayor's Scholars Program, or MSP, has increased substantially in the last 3 years shown relative to the first 3 years. Despite this increase in applications, there has been significantly less enrollment in the Summer Bridge program, which has led to a much lower yield rate, and the yield rate is the number of enrollments divided by the number of applicants. The president should discuss why, despite higher than historical levels of applications in the 2022 to 2024 cohorts, only a small percentage of applicants ended up enrolling in the Summer Bridge program. Exhibit 12 on page 19 shows the fall cohort size among Summer Bridge program completers and the percentage who enrolled for a second year. The percentage of students who enrolled for a second year declined from 59% in fall 2022 to 41% in fall 2023, which is the second lowest rate for the period shown. Exhibit 13 on page 20 shows each MSP cohort's total financial aid amount and the average award for their first year. The 2019 cohort had the most students and the most total aid, while the 2022 cohort had the fewest students and the lowest total aid for the period shown. From the 2020 to 2023 cohort, the average award more than tripled in size. The average award then decreased by 59% in the fall 2024 cohort, which was due to Baltimore City phasing out its funding for the MSP program. BCCC has reported it will use fund balance, federal and state grants, and institutional funding to continue the program, along with looking into philanthropic sources. The President should comment on developments to fund the MSP from other sources, and DLS recommends adopting committee narrative requesting a report on enrollment and the MSP. With that, I conclude the presentation. Take any questions.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, do we want to have Dr. McCurdy, do you want to come up to the table? Bring whoever with you you'd like to bring. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman King, members of the subcommittee. For the record, I am Deborah McCurdy, President, Baltimore City Community College. I'm joined by several colleagues who will join me in commenting as well. Donna Thomas, Interim Vice President for Student Affairs. Michael Thomas, Vice President for Workforce Development, Continuing Ed, and overseeing facilities. Eileen Hawkins, Director of Institutional Research. And Brandon Cohen, who is our Chief Budget Officer and Director of Budgets. And we thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony in support of Governor Moore Miller vision and the state plan. I'd also like to thank our DLS analyst, David Proppert, for his support and partnership. We look to continue that relationship and having him on the campus as often as his schedule allows. You have the analysis as well as our response and written testimony. Since I joined the college in May of 2019, we've continued to demonstrate the college's resilience through realignment, persistence, and the progress that we have made. The college's Student First model ties directly to two of the governor's priorities: setting Maryland students up for success, Priority 2, and connecting Marylanders to jobs, Priority 4. The governor's plan states 1 in 8 Maryland children live in poverty, with Baltimore City and Prince George's County accounting for 40%. BCCC is committed to driving this number down, as nearly 72% of our credit students live in the city, 19% in Baltimore County, 97% of our first-time students assessed or recommended into developmental coursework, math, English, and reading. Additional highlights: our economic impact and our mission to change lives and build communities. And we continue to have great impact on Baltimore City with some 275 plus million that impacts what happens in the Baltimore City economy. That's our operations spending, our student spending, and our alumni spending. We continue as well to make progress on the college's 12 realignment task, which was enacted through this very legislation, I believe, back in 2018. Enrollment highlights: fiscal year 2025 saw an increase in the total annual head count from 9,143 to 10,656. That's the annual enrollment, which is an increase of about 16.5%. We project to exceed our pre-pandemic enrollment, as many other institutions as well struggled over those pandemic years, and as we continue to move our enrollment beyond that point. Our Student First model Tuition at Baltimore City, we're in our 8th year at $110 per credit for all Maryland residents. We have not increased our tuition in 8 years. We've entered as a task with an MOU to establish student pathways to success with Baltimore City Public Schools. We've established those partnerships to address the developmental needs of students in city schools who do not meet college and career readiness. And we're in the process now of finishing out courses in developmental math, developmental English, and we've introduced developmental science as well to help support the students coming out of Baltimore City Public Schools. The realignment process at BCCC is ongoing, and it will continue with the 12 realignment tasks that we have had. We submit a report annually to the legislature. The last report we submitted was December of 2025, and we update the Board of Trustees on a monthly basis regarding the realignment. Regarding our tasks, Task 10, capital improvements, we're planning with facilities for the future. Our library, Learning Commons, we're in the final planning stages, and we hope to move to the bidding process in the next several months as well. That will be moved as well to the nursing building. We've done the assessment on all properties leased and owned for any other costs involved or use. Task 3, and I'm giving you a quick summary on the 12 realignment tasks because those are that strategic direction that the college must put out on a consistent basis. We're moving forward with articulation agreements with four-year schools. Right now, we have one in particular with University of Baltimore on intensive advising as well. We have implemented the process for improvement of our ERP system, and the college suffered under a very antiquated ERP system, our technology infrastructure. With the help of DO-IT, the Maryland Department of Information Systems, we now have moved away from our 30-year-old legacy system. New application process for onboarding and orientation, newly appointed cabinet members. Our strategic plan, moving from a realignment plan into a full-scale strategic plan, the development and management tools that will go with that, with our focus on delivering on our promise, aligning our strengths and expanding our reach, and finally on task 10, the Bard site downtown. Most people are aware that building has come down. It's at Lombard Street, and with a $7.3 million appropriation through the help of Senate President Ferguson and the governor's office, that building that used to stand on Lombard Street is now down. That site, we are expecting and looking to further development, health sciences, criminal justice, cyber, hospitality, sports management, general ed, workforce, the list goes on, that we expect that a plan now will be fully flushed and developed for that particular location. One point of clarification, and also our analysts noted in Exhibit 6, the operating budget still reflects an error in last year's analysis for the eligible FTEs, and it still reflects 2,040 instead of the 3047, even though the funding changed, but the analysis and the chart remains. Lastly, I'd like to ask that the funding formula not change. I'd like to thank Chairman as well King and the committee for their support last year as we maintained funding. Under the current statute, our FTE appropriation must be at least 68.5% of the per FTE appropriation made to selected four-year institutions. That dropped from a 68.5% to a 67.5%, which amounts to a little over 713,000. The concern really is going to be the full multiplier effect by dropping 1% and resetting the baseline for our appropriation is going to have a dramatic effect. The reduced funding would threaten the work of BCCC in conducting our workforce sector, therefore hindering our ability to address workforce shortage demands in Baltimore, and it's going to certainly impact our ability to reach out to for employee salaries, increments, promotions, and other needs, and we do ask that there is not a funding reduction in this regard. I'll end my comments there. I'd be happy to answer the questions, and if the committee's ready, I can proceed to the 6 questions.
Thank you. You guys are busy.
We are busy. The first question, the president should discuss the impacts of the reorganized recruitment efforts. And what we do know, and I will ask that Vice President Donna Thomas also provide some detail as we look at shifting demographic trends and what we've done overall to reorganize our recruitment efforts. This is still all part of the realignment for the institution. And Ms. Thomas, if you'll respond briefly on those efforts.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. The college continues to build a comprehensive and adaptive enrollment strategy responding to shifting demographic trends. We saw an increase in enrollment in fall 24. It was a slight decrease in 25, but we are confident that we will be able to increase enrollment in fall 26. We have taken drastic measures by looking and analyzing our recruitment areas, by looking at our zones. There are 4 recruitment zones to identify the areas in which we should be recruiting from. We have increased our outreach in all of our Baltimore City public schools, and we have set up BCCC days where we are visiting those schools and engaging with the high school counselors as well as respective students. More so, a significant projected near-term enrollment growth in BCCC's expanded dual enrollment model. As Dr. McCurdy shared, we have identified and created developmental courses in both math, English, and science. And based on the development of those courses, we will be able to allow students at Baltimore City Public Schools to enroll while in high school under the dual enrollment program and enroll in those courses. That will give the students the upper hand at the time that they finish high school to be able to come to a 4-year or 2-year community college prepared for college-level coursework. We also are engaging with near completers and expanding workforce partnerships, which serves as bridges for short-term training to credit pathways and strengthen our GED to degree pipeline to support adult learners. We will continue to engage with our community and surrounding partners to work to increase our enrollment. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Anybody
Question?
else?
I'm sorry?
Are you finished, or you have more to testify?
We have the other questions.
Okay.
Okay. Question 2, the president should discuss the specific contract and grant activities that have increased in instruction as well as which programs are in the reaccreditation process. And we are seeing significant impact in both contract and grant activities as well as the reaccreditation process on our success regarding reaccreditation. I'll ask VP Thomas and Director Hawkins. They'll keep their comments short on both of these areas. VP Thomas, as so much of the grant activities comes through workforce, if you can briefly comment there.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. As you guys know, the instruction serves as the core business of our college, and we realize operational increases year over year. As discussed previously, there have been many recruitment and retention initiatives to achieve enrollment goals. This results in additional expenses. Since the number of credit course selections have increased, additional costs will increase as well to keep pace with those selections. Due to COVID-19, many of our workforce programs we were not able to run because they were in-person programs and hands-on. Those programs included construction, CDL, warehousing, our refugee youth program, and some of our community-based programs where we actually go into the community, where we have our GED high school diploma program, and we actually take that program into the communities to meet the residents where they are.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt you. You know, last year we had the legislation in to change the GED exam so that you could take it in Spanish and in English. I think we're going to try and do it in more languages. Have you seen an influx of kids then who have gotten their GED because of that?
So we've seen an increase in our graduation rates, and I don't know if it's particularly attributed to that, but I think that's one of the sort of causes for that. And so, you know, we see an increase in Spanish speakers that are now taking our classes. And so we definitely see the need to continue to make sure that that opportunity is available for them.
Okay.
And so, as these costs increase, we've been very, very fortunate to partner with our latest three. We have a whole list of grants, but I'll cover the three new ones for this year. The first one is the college receives a grant from MHEC, which is the Maryland Promise Scholarship. We receive 936 million. Excuse me, not million, thousand. I wish it was million. That we, yes, ma'am, that we split both with credit and our workforce goal. So when we talk about our workforce programs, I think it's important for you to understand that we offer these programs free of charge. We do not charge students who come through. For instance, if someone wants to earn a CDL, they take the CDL class. We work with them to get them job ready, and we assist them with job placement. So all of that is free, and we utilize grants for that. The second grant that we work with, which is new this year, we partner with the Department of Human Services for the SNAP grant. And so were awarded just a little bit over, this is $1 million, to work with residents who receive SNAP benefits. And then the final new grant that we received was from the Department of Labor, just shy over $88,000. We received that money, basically what we were talking about earlier, so we can work with those who need remediation and who need additional services when it comes to our GED high school diploma program.
With regard to our reaccreditations as well, we're very pleased that the college received full accreditation through middle states in 2024. We've seen similar accreditation efforts through our dental hygiene accrediting body, our nursing accreditation, our business accreditations, and as well. So the college is very pleased, and I think the horizons for that one could view look very differently than they did a number of years ago when the college struggled with many of its reaccreditation requirements as well. The third question, the president should discuss the source and use of the $1 million in state funds. This comes through the city of Baltimore. For the last dozen years or so, the college has received $1 million. $600,000 of that goes to the general operating funds. $400,000 we're generally moving to student scholarships. That's athletic scholarships, institutional scholarships. We've used some for Merit Scholars, dual enrollment through Baltimore City Public Schools, our parallel program, which are non-Baltimore City Public Schools, and then completion support for students with current balances. And so the $1 million, although we're talking with the city, hopefully looking at other ways to fund, you'll hear a little bit more about Merit Scholars, that needs to be funded separately than the dollars that we have received, the $1 million. Question 4, the president should comment on the continued high vacancy rate, efforts to reduce vacant positions, and the effect that vacancies are having on the college's ability to meet goals. It is no secret that we're having difficulty as other institutions with vacancies and filling these positions. We have done well with many of our senior positions. VP for Finance will be coming on board, Chief Financial Officer, the Chief Information Officer filled, Deputy Chief Field Officer for the budgets is sitting with me, the Chief Budget Director, Student Success Center, Dean of Enrollment, Outreach, the list goes on and on. We're filling from bottom up to the middle to the top as quickly as we can. And what we have seen is a decrease over the last year from a higher vacancy rate. We've seen about a 3% decrease in that regard as well. Question 5 is the president should discuss why, despite higher than historical levels of applications in the 22 and 24 cohorts, only a small percentage of applicants enrolled in the summer bridge as well. And we did see a significant increase, but we saw a decrease. Ms. Thomas will comment, and I'll go on then to question 6 and then close my comments as well. So Ms. Thomas, if you'll talk about why this year was an anomaly this past summer regarding the applications for the summer.
Yes, so we did see a slight increase in the number of students that attended the Summer 24 Summer Bridge program of 214 students, and we also saw the increase in the number of applications. We recognize that the yield rate is going down with the number of students that actually enroll. What we did to identify the reasons as to some of why the students are not actually enrolling after completing the application is that we engage with those individuals. The feedback that we received from some of those individuals is that they had to pursue full-time employment, even though they may have applied for the YouthWorks application, because we partner with YouthWorks to where students can attend our Summer Bridge program and receive stipends. They still had to pursue that full-time employment. They also had other family or personal obligations that prevented them from attending that 6-week program, thus leading them to defer their application to a subsequent semester and not enroll in our Summer Bridge program. What we are doing in effort to see the yield rate go up is that we have increased our recruitment efforts, changed our approach to where we are looking at who makes up our student population, who are our students, so that way we can tell our story with the outcome of that recruitment efforts. We do have a recruitment event that's coming up on March the 6th and the 7th, specific to MSP, to where we will be hosting a one-stop shop for students to come on board to provide that support for them to complete. And we'll continue to keep you apprised of our enrollment moving forward.
Question 6, the president should comment on developments to fund the MSP from other sources, and DLS recommends as well adopting the committee narrative requesting a report on enrollment in the MSP. And the college has moved forward to seek additional funds to support the mayor's scholar program. That program really serves as our freshman class coming in. So as we promote dual enrollment, see an increase in our dual enrollment activity once they move from dual enrollment, and then we talk about a summer bridge program. Those are freshman students coming in, and so we're using the summer bridge as part of our freshman class to continue to see the increase. That freshman class also needs funds to support their tuition and fees as well. The operating budget recommended actions, we've been asked to adopt the following narrative: the enrollment in the Mayor Scholars Program. The committee's requests a report on MSP that includes updated information on MSP for 25-26, and that the report should include number of applications received, number of students who participate in the Summer Bridge program, the number of students in all cohorts applicable who have successfully completed at least 15 credits. Our aim is to move students through dual enrollment and to have every student who are registered in Baltimore City schools. What a difference it would make if each student could actually take a dual enrollment courses before they leave Baltimore City Public Schools. And as we begin to push more and more on that relationship and building, certainly on the developmental side of students coming through. So finally,
Before you move on, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
We've talked a lot in some of these hearings about getting students involved at an earlier age. Talking about the fact that if you wait until high school, it's almost too late to get them interested. And I've talked to so many different people about how we could start talking about it in elementary school, where kids get to the point where there isn't a question that they are going to continue education and just do whatever they need to do to become a successful adult. But I talk to so many people that really don't feel that their kids have seen anything in elementary school about higher education. And I just think we need to just get it out there somehow sooner.
yeah, I think your point is well taken as we look at middle classes for the students as well. And Ms. Thomas her team is working on moving forward with that. We can't wait until they are in senior high. It has to start in middle school so that they understand what's available. So summer programs, and that's all a part of it. It's not just Summer Bridge for our students coming out of dual enrollment going into MSP. It is summer programs as well. And as they've looked certainly in the previous year at beginning to adopt a whole model for students for summer programs, whether or not it's academic, it's athletic, social, the kinds of programs that get students on the campus. Every place I've been at other institutions, we've had those summer programs. We've partnered with Parks and Recreation
I
as
think it's
well to get
critical,
the students to the campus, and that's all part of that planning to increase enrollment, but it's all part of the community that's in our name, that we are the community's community college, and we have to outreach very differently than the college
Sure.
has.
Sure.
The final recommendation, the college is accepting the committee's recommendation that we'll continue to have the enrollment report and the mayor's scholars report. And a year or so ago, the legislatively, we did have then concurrence that we would file one report. In the past, there were two different reports, one for enrollment and a separate one for MSP. The data crosses over, and we'd asked that we provide one report, which we do annually. So we've just submitted the report in December of '25 to the joint chairs. So we are preparing information for December of '26 that also will be submitted. We've continued to meet that commitment obligation.
Okay, thank you very
Yes, ma'am.
much. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Any comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Is Todd Reynolds here? Come on up, Todd.
Yes, hello, Madam
Welcome.
Chair. How are you all today? My name is Todd Reynolds. I'm the political coordinator for the American Federation of Teachers in Maryland. AFT Maryland represents a number of public education, K-12, but also higher education unions here in the state, including 8 community colleges going from east to west. That would be, I believe, Hagerstown, Frederick, CCBC, Chesapeake, Howard, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Baltimore City Community College. And on behalf of the faculty at the Baltimore City Community College, we respectfully request the funding formula for BCCC not be cut. This year, we submitted written testimony. I just highlight a few things. I know that the cut from 68.5 to 67.5% of the 4-year FTEs for the 4-year schools seems like a small cut, but it would be significant for the school that's already kind of stretched thin in trying to do what it can to fulfill its mission of educating the workforce. It's about $700,000, I believe, a year, but that would be cumulative annually. Every year, $700,000 would be lost. And that hurts the school's mission to educate the future workforce through things like apprenticeship programs and career education, but also could hurt the implementation of the blueprint as well. I also want to close by pointing out that, and we'll be here next week talk about the CADE funding formula as well, but the school is uniquely, I would say, exposed or could be hurt more by reductions in state aid, because while those other community colleges can ask to make up reductions in state aid and have some of that burden shift over to their counties, that's just not a luxury available to BCCC. Whatever is cut at the state level is cut from their bottom line. And so that's why we're asking today for a full restoration of full formula funding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And just understand, I should have said this earlier, but you know, budgets are always tight, and but we're looking at each one of these schools, and we'll do the absolute best we can for you. So,
Thank you for your time.
see how it works out. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we're going to finish up this afternoon with the Maryland Technology Development Corporation, TEDCO. Elizabeth Weibel is our budget analyst. And Troy A. Lamel Stovall is here. Come on up. Wait just a second till he sits down.
I know, come on, people. Thank you for having me, Senator. I appreciate you. Yeah, they did. They want to come. Come on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Maryland Technology Development Corporation, or TEDCO, their fiscal 2027 budget decreases $1.4 million to $52 million total in 2027. All of that decrease is in general funds. Most of the programs are level funded, though there are a few areas of increase that I'll highlight. On page 2, Exhibit 1 shows an overview of the 2027 allowance. The Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund receives $15.5 million, which is level with fiscal 2026 funding. Social impact funds receive $13 million and make up 25% of the allowance. These include the Pre-Seed Builder Fund, the Inclusion Fund, and the Equitech Growth Fund. The Pre-Seed Builder Fund receives $7.5 million in special funds. That's due to the BRFA of 2025, which allowed the use of BLT funds from the Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Account for the Pre-Seed Builder Fund in fiscal 26 through 28. TEDCO investment funds are one of the key capabilities of the corporation. In addition to the Builder Fund, the corporation operates the Maryland Innovation Initiative, the GAP Investment Fund, the Cybersecurity Investment Fund, and several others. The key observation section on page 7 has a bit about the funds and some of the metrics that TEDCO tracks for companies that it has invested in. On Exhibit 4 and on page 8, there is a summary of some of the larger investment funds. Those are divided into what stage of the company's life cycle they target, whether that's very early stage startups, the pre-seed investment stage, or the venture fund for more established but still growing companies. TEDCO tracks the annual cash returns from these investments, but also the number of employees and the amount of outside follow-on funding that these companies are able to attract. Moving back to the budget summary on page 3. Equitech Growth Fund is a social impact fund that was established in fiscal 2024. It received $3 million in that year when it was first established, and since then has received an annual mandated appropriation of $5 million. It has the capability to make grants, investments, and loans. So far, it has issued 2 rounds of grants for infrastructure and workforce development projects. The most recent awards were made in October and are shown in Exhibit 2 on page 3. This program's focus on tech infrastructure and workforce overlaps with several other state economic development initiatives, such as the Build Our Future Infrastructure 4.0 programs in commerce and several Maryland Department of Labor programs. So DLS recommends reducing funding from $5 million to $3 million in 2027 due to the state's fiscal condition and the fund's programmatic overlap with other state programs. There's also a BRFA recommendation to reduce mandated funding going forward. The Maryland Innovation Initiative is discussed on pages 4 and 5. This makes primarily investments in companies formed at certain higher education institutions. It receives $6.3 million in the 2027 allowance. There was a decrease from the prior year due to the end of the Baltimore Innovation Initiative, which received $1.5 million in 2026. And this is partially offset by an increase of $1 million for the MII Institution Partnership Extension Program, which was established by Chapter 217 of 2025. That would open MII to any eligible higher education institution. Chapter 217 authorized the governor to include $250,000 for the program in each of fiscal 2027 and 2028. However, the allowance, as introduced, includes $1 million for the extension. So DLS recommends reducing funding to the $250,000 authorized in legislation. The Human Relevant Research Fund is discussed on page 5. This is a forthcoming grant and loan program to support research into alternatives to animal testing. The Maryland Department of Health collects fees from institutions that conduct animal research. The 2027 allowance includes $915,000 for the fund, which is based on the amount that was projected to be collected annually when the legislation was developed. However, MDH has encountered some difficulties in collecting the fees, and federal research institutions have declined to contribute. So only $185,000 has been collected so far. So the actual spending for this program is going to be lower than what's in the budget. When this legislation was created, the initial estimate for administrative costs was $180,000, which would include funding to contract an independent scientific review board to review funding applications as required in statute. TEDCO is revising its plans in light of the actual available funding, but doesn't have an updated estimate for administrative costs at this time. However, it anticipates issuing the first RFP for the program in the summer of 26. The Baltimore Tech Hub Consortium receives a $500,000 grant in the allowance. In 2023, the U.S. Department of Commerce designated Baltimore as one of 31 inaugural tech hubs with the potential for rapid growth. And the consortium has received $1 million in each of fiscal 2025 and 2026 to support the consortium's application for Phase 2 federal funding. The consortium was not selected for that round or for two later rounds of funding in 2025. Future federal funding opportunities are expected, but the details and timing are uncertain. So due to this uncertain outlook for federal funding and the state's fiscal condition, DLS recommends deleting funds for this grant. You can see the DLS recommendations on page 9, and with that, I can take any questions you have.
Okay, good job.
Good job. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. You can go get started.
Well, I appreciate that. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Troy Lamel Stovall. I serve as the CEO of TEDCO. And with that, let me ask the team that we affectionately like to call One TEDCO team to please, if you don't mind, to allow them to stand so they can be recognized here. If you don't mind, and allow them to stand and be recognized. They really do all. I get to sit here, but they're the ones who really do all the work. So thank you, and thank them for all the work that they do for TEDCO and for the ecosystem.
Okay.
You might ask why I'm dressed like this. There's supposed to be Alpha Day here at the Capitol, but because of the weather, I just found out they canceled it. So my fraternity, and also the governor's fraternity, we were supposed to have a day, but they canceled it. So I'm going to spend my time today in response to the DLS analysis, and then allow others to go into more details on some stuff. And normally we always have an outstanding working relationship with DLS. And I've done this, now it's kind of my sixth time having to sit here and do this, and I'd say most times I'm agreeing with the DLS analysis.
You sound like you just enjoy it so much.
And I'm sitting here today before you because I do enjoy coming to see you and the committee. But on these three recommendations from DLS, we respectfully disagree with those three. I'm going to spend just a minute on two of them and spend more time on one. And I'm allowing my other colleagues, the leadership from MII, Maryland Innovation Initiative, and the leadership from Greater Baltimore Committee to go into more details on why we disagree. But just to very quickly with the Greater Baltimore Committee, if I can go back to the governor's budget very quickly, the governor's budget had changes to two streams that we have that are pass-throughs through TEDCO to the Greater Baltimore Committee. One for the regional hub that Mark Thomas will talk about, and the other one's the entity called Upsurge, which is now part of the general. In each of those instances, the governor recommended cutting both of those basically in half. He also recommended a $1 million increase to the Maryland Innovation Initiative, or MII, and that's because of this body, extending MII beyond just those five, and Abby will talk about the expansion of MII, but it's specifically the fact that MII now, by law, is now into all the institutions, but it was not funded. So the governor provided $1 million so we can begin that process, and again, Abby will speak more to that in a second. So to the recommendations, the first recommendations was for the Greater Baltimore Committee, cutting that one stream for the Greater Baltimore Committee for the Regional Tech Hub to zero. And we think this is not the time to do that. I fully respect for this fiscal condition the state is in, but I think we got to think beyond, and I think Mark will talk more about this. Yes, we haven't been successful in looking at the grants that we've gotten, but that's not how we should measure success, in my opinion. The measurement of success should be about how we brought together the public and private sector to go after this, which is, in my time here, we haven't had that galvanization of that. And so we've got to continue that if we are going to be successful going forward in securing some of these funding and, frankly, bringing private sector dollars into this equation. I know Mark will talk more about that. So I'll reserve that to him. So that's why we disagree with that recommendation. And then with the Maryland Innovation Initiative, we're talking about serving 40-plus universities, and this is not just universities and community colleges, with $250,000. So that math just it's not going to allow us to really provide anything to those. But let me spend time, if I may, and again, Abby will spend a lot more time talking about that. Let me spend most of my remaining time talking about the Equitech Growth Fund. If you recall, 3 years ago, we came to you talking about the Equitech Growth Fund. It was a tool that we were going to use in order to help really build the ecosystem for early stage tech and life science. And the one key word that we disagree in particular with the DLS analysis on this point is this conversation of overlap. And I know that's a conversation that can be had because from a surface it can look like these are similar because it's investing in workforce. And the key words are being workforce and infrastructure. And that does look similar to other efforts, say, at our friends at Commerce and at Department of Labor. The difference is TEDCO's job, which you have asked us to do and which you've asked us to do for the last almost 30 years, is to invest in that early stage. How do you make sure there's an infrastructure for those tech and life science when they're just coming out of the federal or the university labs, when they're just coming out of someone's garage, when they're just coming out of someone's napkin, when they're just coming out of someone's just idea? And so that's what we're investing in an Equitech Growth Fund. And if I may, I just want to give you, we've had this now for 2 years, have invested about $11 million. We've trained for just out of 23 projects and $11 million, we've trained over 2,500 Marylanders to enter mid-level roles in data science, cybersecurity, quantum, biomanufacturing, and AI. We've supported over 750 STEM jobs, more than 15 startups, which is what we do. 15 startups have been supported because of Equitech Growth Fund. 400 direct jobs, including lab technicians, apprentices, interns, and program leaders. And the construction of 9 major facilities across the state have been supplemented because of this work. Again, our job is to make sure not just to do the invested in that company, but to make sure the ecosystem surround all the things that those entrepreneurs need, whether that's workforce, whether that's a place, whether that's a lawyer, whatever they need, we provide that, not just through Equitech Growth Fund, but through all the other things. You're going to hear me talk more and more, senators, about and we're going to show you statistics, how we can touch companies in a way to accelerate their growth. That's what we want to start giving you statistics. How do we find different touches to accelerate that growth? And that's what we've done. As I close on the Equitech Growth Fund, just this last year, we had over 93 applications, represent over $40 million of funding. We were only able to support 40 million, so 10% of those. There was another 10 million that were extremely worthy to be funded that we just obviously did not have the resources to fund. So again, now's not the time to go backwards with Equitech Growth Fund. So I'm sorry.
I agree. It's just that the dollars aren't agreeing with us.
I hear you. You can put, my job is to come and advocate.
And what we hear is that next year and the year after will be worse than this year. So just understand that we get it, and we'll do absolutely the best that we can to help you out.
Look, you've been supportive, even last year, you were supportive to TEDCO. So
sure.
we fully respect that. Obviously, my job is to advocate and give you,
and you do it well.
Making a hard decision for you.
Yeah, I have another meeting at 3 o'clock, so if we could do.
We go fast. I'm done. Yep. So I'm gonna
hear from everybody we need to hear from, but we need to wrap it up by 3 o'clock.
I'm done. I'm gonna turn it over to
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Abhishek, or Abhi Kulshrestha. I'm the Executive Director for the Maryland Innovation Initiative. By very brief way of background, the Maryland Innovation Initiative was formed in 2012 as a collaboration between the state of Maryland and 5 research institutions. Those are Morgan State, Johns Hopkins, Baltimore County, and the University of Maryland College Park. Over the last 13 years of our existence, we've provided over $65 million in awards via grants and investment to technologies that emanate from here in Maryland. Those are technologies that are found, that are discovered, reduced to practice within the halls of our universities, that the Maryland Innovation Initiative has a hand in ensuring stay in Maryland and provide economic benefit to the people of Maryland. Over the last 13 years, our $65 million in award have generated over $830 million in follow-on funding. 2/3 of that is private, and over 400 sustained jobs. And as immensely proud as we are of the economic impact that the program has had, we are as proud, if not more so, of the impact that the technologies that we've have funded have had here in the state of Maryland, across the U.S., and in the world. 2 very brief examples. In 2016, the Maryland Innovation Initiative funded a company called Scene Health. Scene Health was among the first companies to provide telemedicine for rural public health agencies. In 2020, not only was Scene Health instrumental in the COVID response for the state of Maryland, it became the standard of care in 30 other states. Today, that company is still based here in Maryland and ensures that it has national impact through the technology that was developed here. The second example is a company called North American Wave Engine Corporation, which this year will deliver its first J-1 jet propulsion units to the U.S. Air Force. That company is still headquartered in Baltimore and was a Maryland Innovation Initiative investment in 2017. To be sure, there are plenty of competent scientists and technologists all over the United States. These things may have happened, but they likely would not have happened or stayed in Maryland were it not for the early engagement of the Maryland Innovation Initiative. MII has two priorities this year that we'll talk a little bit about. The first one is better aligning our nationally renowned university research and development base to the needs of the private sector, both to support and attract companies to the state of Maryland. We know that incentives, particularly for economic development, have become increasingly competitive among states, and that what companies are seeking is expertise to help them navigate substantial technology transitions in artificial intelligence, in precision medicine, and advanced manufacturing, among other disciplines. We have seen other states, including some of our neighbors, better align their university and college activities to the needs of that private sector. For example, Virginia's substantial investment in biomanufacturing, which last year led to the establishment of Lilly and AstraZeneca's new pilot plant facilities within the state. We know that we can do that in Maryland if we better align our university research and development outputs to the needs of the private sector. That's something that we're spending a lot of time with our university partners to do today. The second priority, as you heard Troy mention earlier, is our statewide expansion. So over the last 4 years, the Maryland Innovation Initiative has had the opportunity to engage in two pilots. The first one with Frostburg and Bowie State universities to understand what MII would look like at emerging research institutes. The second one, called the Baltimore Innovation Initiative pilot program, at all 20 colleges, universities, and community colleges in the Baltimore, Columbia, Towson MSA. We've learned a lot through these pilots, and you'll hear from one of our awardees today. And we firmly believe that the Maryland Innovation Initiative has a place to play in every single university, college, and community college throughout the state. We believe that we can affect this expansion. Last year, this body gave us the opportunity to contemplate that by passing legislation that permitted MII to expand beyond just those 5 institutions and throughout the state. Even without funding, we took the bull by the horns. I've been out in Western Maryland to visit Frostburg State, as well as a number of other comprehensives like Hood over the last year, and plan to do so again this year. Next month, we're scheduled to be on the Eastern Shore, visiting the University of Maryland Eastern Shore and Salisbury University to understand what the Maryland Innovation Initiative could look like at these jurisdictions. So while we welcome any appropriation that would enable us to continue those activities, as Troy mentioned, we want to make sure that our ability to engage with these universities and colleges and community colleges is as meaningful as the innovation that they're putting out today. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to our guest, an awardee of the inaugural Baltimore Innovation Initiative pilot program.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Debbie Celine. I am a Maryland resident for my entire life. Been to University of Maryland, College Park, and Baltimore. And to echo what some of my colleagues here have been saying about entrepreneurship, is you do start on a napkin and things like that. So I got funded through BII on a thought from a napkin, but I wear a few hats in our community, and I have a foundation that is located in your district. Senator King, yes, very good. Live and work there. And what we do is we, for the last 16 years, I have, the foundation has served individuals, Maryland individuals with severe and profound disabilities. I've met thousands and thousands of parents. I have a child of my own that is now 31 and has severe and profound disabilities. And through meeting everyone, what we found that everyone had in common is that when these children transition into adult care, there's nowhere for them to land. There is a reason for that. 20 years ago, these kids were sadly not living into adulthood, and now 90% of them are living. We have about nationwide 500,000 every single year transitioning into the adult world, and there is no one there that really understands because they haven't seen it, they haven't practiced it, whatever. So my idea was to have a primary care facility that is dedicated to disability-informed care. So we launched it in October, and we got an award from BII because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm one person in the state of Maryland. This isn't, in Gaithersburg. We need this as a statewide issue. I mean, it is a statewide issue, and BII awarded us to make a prototype that uses machine learning and clinical data to be able to spit out like differential diagnoses. And why that is so important is because if you haven't had a severe and complex person with cerebral palsy and you're a general practitioner. You don't learn it in school. You don't learn it except for if you see it. Therefore, this prototype will be able to spit out diagnoses so these things don't get missed. And it's not lost on me that there is a budget crisis. And if we think and invest in BII so that they could invest more in us so that we could use this across the state, and the most remote area of Maryland may be able to use this and say, oh, gee, that's what it is, because it presents so differently in disabled individuals.
I do notice in my area, our area, I have never seen anywhere with as many group homes as we have, like hundreds. And we just, it's really gotten to be a kind of a safe area for that population. And you would never know, unless you might see them out shopping at the grocery store, you'd never know they're there. They
Exactly.
fit right in with the community.
Exactly. We live in a great district that has a lot of things, but that doesn't.
I think it's the senator from there that probably.
It must be. It must
Just saying.
be. Yeah, but having a tool that could go throughout the state of Maryland, because there are very remote areas that these people lack access to care. So access to care, good evidence-based care, and this is what this tool, over time, with more data, will do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who's next?
I'm going to pass it to Rashika and then stem cell.
Thank you, Troy.
Honorable Madam Chair and honorable delegate members, thank you for having me here. As you know, regenerative medicine involves stem cells that can renew and fix the damaged or and repair those organs and tissues. You mandated us 20 years ago this task to fund this and support this field. And through our MSCRF, through this time, through our independent commission, research commission, has delivered that promise and fulfilled that promise and continues to do so. We have supported close to 200 disease areas through over 700 projects. And these projects and these areas are not just random numbers. These are actually the patients that are getting impacted. Some of them have already received cures, and some of them are waiting as the science progresses along. One successful example is sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease that we have cured through an innovation that was developed at Johns Hopkins University. 100 Marylanders have been treated. Each patient costs $200,000 annually, and these patients have been cured, reducing healthcare burden here. And in 5 years, if we can scale this up, all the 5,000 Marylanders who have sickle cell will be cured. So that's the public health side of it. And this is just one disease. There are multiple diseases that are getting supported through MSCRF. On the economic side, we have a full continuum model where we support from not only early discovery, but also commercialization, clinical trials, and now through advanced manufacturing. This has made a major economic impact in our ecosystem. Our companies, since our initial funding, have generated $1 billion in private capital, all this capital coming here. We have 80 companies that are still active in Maryland and expanding in Maryland. They're going public. I will give you, and then our manufacturing grants which have been launched 2 years ago, are already showing great promise, making these companies internationally recognized. We had a Korean company come last year in Baltimore, citing Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund as a major factor for choosing Baltimore. With that, I would hand over the mic to one of our awardees, Dr. Luis Alvarez from Adaptive Manufacturing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and committee members. So thank you for the time. I know that we're short for time, so I'll keep it brief, and I'll give you a few key figures so that you can report back or discuss with your colleagues.
What was your last name?
My name is Luis Alvarez.
Okay.
So my name is Luis Alvarez. I am the CEO of Theradaptive. We are a biotechnology company based in Frederick, Maryland, inside the Opportunity Zone. And what we develop are therapeutic implants that stimulate a person's stem cells to become bone with much more precision and greater safety than anything that's currently available. We started with 3 employees and an idea. And the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund over the years has invested in us $3.5 million. And we have been able to leverage that to bring in $85 million, so 25 times the amount in private investment and federal funding into the Frederick area. And we have been able to multiply by 10 the number of employees from 3 to now close to 40. And we're building out a 30,000 square foot GMP manufacturing facility in Frederick. And we will be, again, doubling the number of employees to about 65. So a modest investment from MSCRF has really had outsized returns, especially in an opportunity zone like Frederick. And the most important part is really the impact on patients. That grant that we received in the clinical award program has allowed us to engage a MedStar. And we have a very distinguished physician here who will provide some remarks, Dr. David Weiner, that we would not have been able to have engaged without that MSCRF funding. So we're actually impacting Maryland patients with a therapeutic that came off the back of a napkin with a modest investment from MSCRF. And now we're actually treating very serious spinal conditions in Marylanders off of an idea. So I'd like to transition.
What GMP is? You said GMP.
Oh, sorry. GMP is good manufacturing practice, which basically means pharmaceutical grade, ready to go into humans. And so we'll be reshoring, in fact, with additional funding, manufacturing that is currently being done outside the U.S. We're going to bring it into Frederick. So I'd like to pass it over now to Dr. David Weiner.
Chairwoman King and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So my name is David Weiner, orthopedic board certified spine surgeon and director of spine surgery at MedStar Southern Maryland Hospital Center. There I serve as the principal investigator of the Theradaptive OptioAdapt clinical trial of their novel biologic therapeutic. The biologic we're studying does represent a meaningful advancement in patient care. It's designed to fuse bone with significantly greater precision and control, reducing unwanted side effects of fusion and potentially improving our fusion efficacy. From both a scientific and a clinical standpoint, this is a refinement that addresses some of the core drawbacks that we've kind of had to accept for years. Although we are the only active trial site in the state, I'm proud to report that our center is the second highest enrolling site in the country, especially when compared to some of the more highest volume and most respected academic spine institutions nationwide, including Hospital for Special Surgery and others. This level of enrollment, I think, reflects the rigor of our program, as well as the strong interest from patients in Maryland seeking access to innovative and evidence-based care. The Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund has been instrumental in bringing this project to its current stage. Early and mid-stage translational research is where many promising technologies falter, and not because the science is weak, but because sustained funding is difficult to secure during the critical bridge from concept to commercialization. The fund fills that gap, and it enables high-quality clinical investigation, supports regulatory progression, and allows Maryland institutions to compete at a national level in biologic innovation. As this therapy advances into its phase 3 evaluation and the final steps required for the FDA submission, continued support is going to be foundational. And if successful, I do not think this is going to remain a niche academic project. This is going to become the new standard of care for all spine surgery infusions. So thank you for your time and commitment to advancing transformative medical research in Maryland.
Thank you very much. Any comments?
Just one thing
Senator
on this. On this sickle cell matter, Madam Chair and committee members, it's a very personal thing for me. My sister passed away from sickle cell multiple years ago, and she didn't get a chance to go into the details, but it used to be, because you had to be a perfect match, bone marrow match. Now they're down to, I want to say, 50% or less to do a bone marrow match from research done at Hopkins because of the support from stem cells. So this is very personal for me to be here, be at the table to have this happen here in Maryland.
Absolutely. Thank you. Senator Bailey.
Fully covered by insurance, $285,000, all it takes versus $200,000 annually. That was the cost of sickle cell.
Sure.
patients.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say to each and every one of you, I appreciate the fact that you came here. I appreciate what you're working on. Obviously, all very important things to us and to all of our constituents. You know, when we talk about care for our families or health care, it's all very important, right? One thing I would ask, you know, when we look at technology, right? And we look at what you're doing. You know, I come from Southern Maryland, right? We represent a top tier for STEM careers.
Yes, sir.
Right? For our population, number one in the whole country, right? Ahead of Silicon Valley, right? We are dominated by the defense industry, right? And what we do in this country and us having these discussions and being able to do everything is because we have the top defense, right? We are the big dog in the room, right? And I would like to continue to work with you, but when we talk about what we have there when it comes to engineering, IT, cybersecurity, and defense technology, right? I will be very interested to follow to see how we are progressing when it comes to technology in that field.
Yeah, we'll definitely follow with you, Senator. First off, thank you for your support. Seriously, I mean that because you've been huge supportive in the work we're doing there in Southern Maryland. But definitely, we have an area we call Def Tech, Defense Tech. It's actually a very separate program that we have, very successful. Actually, one of our Def Tech companies just last week got a $25 million IDIQ from the Navy to do some work that's here in Maryland. And so we have some very good statistics we can show you on what we're doing with our defense technology. We actually have a separate effort that we're looking at. How do we look at dual use opportunities as well? And also looking at how we can, frankly, how we can do, and you and I've talked a lot about how do we better get those technologies that are behind the gate particularly like at your base there in Southern Maryland, and get them into the commercial space. And we've got some efforts that we're doing around that as well.
We've got a tremendous amount of startups.
Yes, sir.
Some of the that are being courted for by states all across the country right now. I'm just losing one to a huge building in Florida.
Yes, sir.
Right. We cannot afford to lose any of these other businesses.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure we follow up with you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we've got more people signed up to testify, I think here.
You do. Yes, you do.
Okay, did Jeff Bolte, did he testify?
Not a written testimony.
David Hackham? Mark Anthony Thomas? Oh, he's written. Okay, come on up. Is there anyone else here that needs to testify today that I haven't called their name? If they are here, come on up. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Hi, great. So good afternoon. I'm Mark Anthony Thomas, the CEO of the Greater Baltimore Committee, and I want to speak to the importance of the support from the state for the work that we've done over the last 2+ years. In October 2023, I was fortunate to be asked by the White House to announce what was really Commerce's largest economic development program in its history. That Baltimore was named one of 31 hubs out of over 300 applications. What was pivotal about that moment was it was the first time that the region had actually collaborated with a city and its 7 surrounding counties that do encompass our metropolitan area. And so the investment in Tech Hub was a few things, not just the pursuit of federal economic opportunities, but it also allowed for us to coordinate how we thought about our market as a region, and establish a regional innovation office to pursue future Tech Hub rounds and position us for other federal opportunities through SBA, commerce, treasury, housing, you name it, where the region had just historically been fragmented and dispersed, and now we were better positioned. And so over the last 2 years, we've created that one regional approach to federal opportunities. We have launched what was voted as the top regional brand for our economy in the country. We've created a unified business investment pipeline, and we've identified standing opportunities that we want to pursue that will support the regional growth. This support is really critical to continuing that work in concert with the support that the private sector and all of our anchor institutions are supporting to make sure that we thrive. Even though it's been administration change, we do feel confident with the relationships we're building in DC that we can be successful in future rounds. So I just wanted to speak on the record for supporting that.
Okay, is there anyone else here that needed to speak this afternoon? Okay, thank you. Thanks, you guys. That ends our hearing.